Well, with the recent Fallout TV show being a smash hit, Nuka-Cola stocks are at an all-time high, and I'm in the mood to do a different game. Today we're going to be playing Fallout 4. While I could do something sane like a weapon restriction run, instead just like how I opened up Skyrim running with the weight limit being a suggestion, and I like to occasionally hurt my sanity, today we will see if you can beat Fallout 4 while overencumbered. So what rules are there for a run like this? Well, I could play things straight and reduce my carry limit to 1. I wanted to play things like I did with the Skyrim run, and as soon as I hit the carry limit, I have to stay above the limit for the entire run, and if I ever go underneath the limit, then I fail the challenge. As for before becoming overencumbered / cutscenes, I just have my character walk to places until I hit the limit. Otherwise, no companions except for quests, and thankfully Fallout 4 isn't a totally mess of a game. I don't need to impose no game breaker rules. It's just a mess in other ways. With that all out of the way, let's get started. So when creating my character, I try to make a random character, and then I just gave up halfway through the process because my brain has the attention span of peanuts. I also mess around with the settings because this is actually the first time I booted Fallout 4 on my current rig. In fact, this is the first time I played Fallout 4 in several years. I wait by the window like a peeping Karen, waiting to yell at the neighbors for having a blade of grass 1mm above the rest, and then assign my special stats. I gave a relevant name to my character before starting the run. As for my special stats, I wanted strength at 9 for Rooted, luck at 5 for Idiot Savant, charisma at 3 for the Lone Wanderer, and the rest were put in endurance because since I won't be very mobile, I'll need to be able to take hits. Thinking back, I might have put some points into perception for the refractive perk, but oh well. I played with Sean, learned that the nukes are falling, and I watched my neighbors book it past me. It is important during a crisis to remain calm and collected. You see, it all works out. Well, I get frozen in my cryopod, Cereal Man finds out his breakfast was frozen, and the run can finally get started. So for my walking, I make the discovery very early on that swinging like a madman gets results while in third person, and I can make up for my low movement speed, just a little bit. I grab everything that's not nailed down as I made my escape through the vault, while of course taking a lot of damage because I'm not very good at Fallout. Eventually with some bonked roaches and a new 200-year-old pit-boy, I can leave the vault into the wilderness. So in Sanctuary, I proceeded to scrap a lot of stuff and also get in the special book to bump up my endurance up. More HP after all. After I was done scrapping to my heart's content throughout the town, I grabbed everything in the workshop and stuffed it in my pockets, putting me over the weight limit for the entire run. And I'm going to be seeing the overencumbered message pop up so damn much also. So as I head to the Red Rocket Station and adding it to my settlement collection, and ignoring the dog there, I decided to side with the Minutemen for this playthrough, but not completely just the Minutemen, more later. But know that I'll be doing a lot of settlements. Also, I never done the Minutemen questline before, so that will be fun. I swung my way into the Mole Rat Den for the Fusion Core here, leveled up and got the Idiot Savant perk, and if you know what you're doing, you can break the game wide open with this perk on PC, and then after that, I left. Since Concord was down the road, I decided to give Preston the time of day, and also giving raiders new assholes on their head, and looting them of their dignity. Though I think Preston got a lot of the killing. As for the museum, I shot at the raiders and proceeded throughout the patriotism place. At the terminal, the game decided to soft lock, so I had to reload. I remember later on how to fix this is by typing TCL, but oh well. I shot my way through the raiders again, this time using the door. Somewhere in here I got a big upgrade with my melee which will help out a lot, and finished up the building. At the top I talked to the settlement and got me a bobblehead to bump up my perception. Back outside I rip off the minigun because of my sheer strength, and when I try to get into the suit the game soft locked again. In the reality the game decided to work, I used the minigun to blast away at the raiders until the death clock came to play. The oversized Gek was having a pretty hard time trying to figure out how to get to me, and if I didn't have to reload I probably could have one-cycled it, but oh well. I talked to Preston and get conscripted to fight for freedom because America. So I walked Preston back to Sanctuary like instead of fast traveling because I can't because overencumbered. Along the way I became insect food and they hit pretty hard for the stage in the game. A second bug got distracted and the gang chased after it. Eventually everyone finds their way back to Sanctuary and I can start the settlement collecting gig. I get a well-timed Idiot Savant and get 2 level ups off of that too. My first stop is 10 Pines, but since Abernathy Farm takes me pretty close by for their quest, I decided to do 2 birds 1 stone. So I dashed to the south a bit until I came to the Abernathys who want me to go to the nearby satellite station. Nothing really much as I waddled my way through the forest, and I made a pit stop at the car wreck first. I let the sentry bot delete system 32 on itself so I can get a couple more fusion cores, since I'm going to need a few of them if I'm going to waddle through the glowing sea. When I got to the satellite station, I got a mole rat bomb to the face, so that was fun. Instead I used my shotgun to good use. As for Akak, I used the musket and somehow managed to one-shot her. And this is on normal by the way. I guess I shouldn't underestimate the power of freedom. I grabbed my loot and locket and left. So next up is 10 Pines Bluff, and on my way there I encountered a pack of feral hounds. One of them was legendary. Glad to see legendary enemies this early in the game. I turned the dogs into dust bunnies and continued my way east to the settlement where the leader asked me to take care of Jared at the Corvega assembly plant. With my business concluded, I waddled back to Abernathy, doubling back on myself not to wander into any deathclaws, and to get another settlement under the cause. As for heading to Corvega, I did come across a diner, and you would think Wolfgang should be more concerned about a madman wildly swinging an axe slowly in their direction. Well, I got some captain experience from Trudy and traded in for some ammo. Also, I tried to grab dinner from the Porta Dinner, but got frustrated and left. Since I was here, I grabbed the Starlight Drive-In to count for their settlement goals. I continued to swing wildly to the south until I got to the Corvega assembly plant. Here I used my favorite way of playing Fallout, sniping. I sniped at the turret so I don't have to deal with that. I spent a while clearing out the outside of the plant before saying hell with it and going inside. Here I blasted at the raiders until I got to Jared. I do enjoy sniping, though I'm not for sure how I managed to get a headshot from that far away at that angle. Once I was done on the inside, I proceeded outside because my small brain was squirreled in on the bobblehead at the very top. I thought it might help me in the long run, not for certain if it did or not. On the rooftop there were a lot of powerful raiders. Since I'm movement limited, I have to face tank grenades, and I take a strong grenade to the face as soon as I got out. I played around a dome taking snipes at the raiders until I could get some room to move. After the longest shootout on a tower, and a nice level up also, I could move on to the main tower, where I slowly fought my way up to the top for a bobblehead that increases the length of fusion cores. I say it might help out, I'm not for sure since I don't use power armor too much except for the glowing sea, but I might have to for this run, given my, movement speed. Not for sure if it was worth the 20 minutes to get it though, and also I have to deal with getting down too. So while I could go back to 10 Pines, in fact I probably should have to get the quest completed, I actually put it on the back burner because I have a big brain play on how I'll get around my fast travel problem. Just getting the fast travel thing will be a pain in the arse and I won't get it until much later on in the run. I continued my way down the road and saw the Brotherhood distress signal pop up on my radio, which is perfect because said plan requires the Brotherhood's help. So I hobbled my way south into a group of scavengers that take way too long to go down. Going to need a better weapon very soon. When I got into Lexington, Dan's gang was in trouble so I decided to help out. Besides the toaster shooting a truck and it blowing up next to me. I joined in Dan's in the extermination of the feral ghouls, and when I talked to him to go inside the police station, I started doing my movement tech and bopped Dan's in the back. Got gunned down immediately before I could say oops, sorry. So I have to dodge the truck again and reslay the zombies again. I head into the police station with less axe swings this time. I got my supplies from the station, then followed Dan's to Arcjet. Well, he just walks a few paces ahead of me as I swing violently in the general direction because of my strugglemental movement. For the most part, Dan's does most of the killing to Arcjet. I even think he killed a Brahmin caravan. Well, after a few minutes we arrive in Arcjet. We enter the dungeon since this place is the start of a master plan of mine. For the first part of the plant, I did struggle with the computer because of collision, and here I remember that typing TCL is able to fix walking issues, because of course this game has to be buggy as hell. Deeper inside we meet the synths and they do pack a bit of a punch, no energy resistance and all that. Should probably work on the refractor perk at some point, but oh well. I made sure to grab any weapons and ammo because I love energy weapons. For the most part, Dan does most of the work since at least he can do stuff. As for my big master plan, in the energy room I got the junk jet, won't use it for this run, maybe someday I can think of a use. I turn on the power, lock Dan's in the room with a never-ending horde of synths. I didn't do Arcjet for the Brotherhood questline, well, I do it partially, but I did it because of the amount of fusion cells you can get from this quest, and since I enjoy energy weapons and you get a very good weapon from doing this quest, it was a no-brainer. I let Dan's take care of the hordes while I used the Elder Scroll on the toilet. When I got back several minutes later, Dan's was still at it, but eventually I got bored, so I put the microwave in the oven to see what happens, and it purifies all the synths. I mashed the E button like no tomorrow and claimed almost 1,000 energy cells for myself, and the pistols can be traded in for a shitload of drugs. After that was done, we went into the depths of Arcjet and fought the synth boss here. He drops a pretty good Institute rifle, more cells to my collection, and we departed Arcjet. I save scummed the final bit of the mission for 2 full level ups. So with Arcjet done, that is all I'm going to be doing with the Brotherhood for now. So I guess time to start flailing to the big city, but first I killed a few scavengers. Goes better than last time. On my way to the big city, I thought I could take care of a couple settlements to join the freedom cause. The first one is Grey Garden. I don't fancy playing with the Supermoons and Mirelurk, so I got out my axe and started swinging violently in one general direction. With me rooted in place, I just ignored their attempts at buzzsaws and I whacked away at them until they stopped twitching. After that, I crossed the station to Oberlin Station, and since the back alley is in my way, I could take up the settler's offer, so I waddled my way there. Right before the closed door is Hangman's Alley, which can be converted to the Cause of Freedom. I just blast my way at the raiders, continuing to loot as I go through until I clear things out and I can craft me a bed to sleep in. Once that was done, I entered Backstreet Apparel after clearing out the welcoming party. You know, there are smart things to do, like not hanging out beneath a Molotov and burning to death. Second attempt, I played things so much smarter, well, for my standards anyways. I cleared out the place before too long. So once I freed the settler, I swore she was going to go back to her folks. But as I continued towards Park Street Station, I swatted at a bunch of mongrels, but the settlers just decided to follow me, and I accidentally slashed at her, killing her. Like hell, I was going to escort her back to only then double back on myself to where I left off. While I continued down the road a bit, wasn't too long and eventually I made it past the Commons into Park Street Station. You know, wearing general clothing won't do you much good to stop blasts of energy. I turned the welcoming party into dust bunnies and continued my way downstairs. I will be honest, I never knew this game had a cover system, so I was able to safely shoot out the mobsters in the subway station behind pillars. A few energy holes, popped heads, and I'm in the vault. Here things proceed as normal, just with an extra looting on the side. Probably thanks to my defensive perks, the triggermen don't pose much of a threat, thankfully. As for Dino, I just popped his head off and then I can talk to the synth on how to escape the vault. Nick thought the best way to escape is to run repeatedly at a door. More waddling, more gunning, and more looting, we made our way outside to Skinny Malone. I turned Skinny and all his men into Swiss cheese after popping all my drugs. We make it outside by waiting in a load screen for almost a solid minute, get a well-timed idiot level up. I thought to start leveling my perception, but frankly, I won't need it. Well, I joined Nick in going back to Diamond City, except he wanted to get a tussle with the raiders beforehand, and some super mutants also. Because I was so slow, Piper already made it into the city, so I didn't have to wait for the gate to open. I just made sure to snag the Kellogg's house key from the mayor to cut down on backtracking, since that's my biggest weakness. I talked to Nick, break into the cereal man's house, lit his place dry, and proceed to save Scum talking to Dogmeat for experience because I really want to rush level 20. Then I can start the waddle to Fort Hagen. On my way there, I stopped to stand up because Cal was in the way of my swinging. When I left the city, I met with Cricket and I decided, sure, why not? Get one of the best weapons in the game, the spray and pray. Thankfully, I had more than enough junk on hand to afford the gun and stay over 1,000 units also. As I continued down the road, I decided, why not? I will go ahead and clear out Hardware Town. Except the totally settler was in the way. It wasn't much and I was able to get some green paint for later. There really was not much to go on my trek to Kellogg besides getting jumped by a Yao Guai, and I also remembered to talk to the settlers at Oberlin Station. I didn't want to live with my failure, so I just killed them all. Eminent domain and all that. When I crossed the bridge, I was jumped by a couple legendary ghouls. Nothing fun on them, so I continued on flailing. Before Fort Hagen, I decided to clear out the hospital nearby. Yeah, high-level blood bug stuck. Greatly. Somehow avoided the probably instant kill attack. Well as prepared as I'm ever going to be, I entered the fort. So while the synths do hurt, I do have a few levels, defensive perks, and even though I don't have the refractor perk, I'm able to just take the damage just fine. For the first part of the fort, only the synth leader was of issue because for some reason his pistol catches me on fire. As for the second part of the fort, it was more the same, looting, shooting at the robots, and I grabbed the bobblehead for energy weapons, which is very nice. As for Kellogg, I turned him into Cheerios for how many bullets I put into him. Well, getting the chip was pretty easy at least. When I left the fort, I turned to the skies and found my salvation. Overjoyed, I started to waddle back to Cambridge Station, but not before watching something explode through the air. Eventually, after about 10 minutes, I'm back at the station and I'm given an escort through the skies. Saves me an hour at least. And I'm getting a minigun also. Considering the history of the Soul Survivor from a recent tweet by one of the developers, it makes what I'm about to do very lore-friendly. After the flight across the Commonwealth, I'm aboard the Pridwin, where I listen to Maxim give a boring speech and I'm given a tour of the ship. I meet my people, get a substantial upgrade from my armor that will see me through the rest of the run, then begin the mission for Fort Strong. You see, this quest is extremely important for me, and it's going to save my arse big time. I board my second vertebra with some knight shooting at me for some reason, and then for the fort I angered a Mirelurk and proceeded to shoot down the behemoth. Aerial superiority was achieved and the behemoth goes down. Things got a little iffy when we landed as I was exposed in the open for everyone to come at me. Had to take a few drugs just to get safely behind a rock where I could pick off at the mutants. The legendary butcherer was troublesome at least, but at least it goes down before too long. As for the interior of the fort, I had danced along for a meat shield against the meatheads and we were able to pick them off with relative ease. Things got a little tricky in the basement though, as there was a mutant with a missile launcher. Thankfully for the most part he was focused on dance instead of me, but I do take a bit of the blast. At least I survived. Just had to live on a sprayer and the mutants go down without too much fuss and the fort is ours. With my mission complete, I have to waddle my way back to the Pridwin, but along the way I did do a small bit of war crimes against Nordhagen Beach just so I can finish getting settlements and I can rush the ending, hopefully. After that I swam across the waters, didn't have the Aqua Boy perk so I was taking constant radiation damage, but oh well. As for why I was hyper-focused on this mission, when I got on board, in a bit of Savant, I got a level up, and a much more importantly, vertibird flares. Suffice to say, this saves the run. When in the overworld, vertibirds can escort me to places I have been to before, effectively allowing me to fast travel. Hooray! Back on the ground, I used my signal grenade to take me back to 10 Pines Bluff, and then finished up the quest with the Minutemen. I returned to Sanctuary, got another mission from Mr. Gravy, and I took the vertibird there. Sure, I don't have it on the map, but you can disengage the bird mid-flight so I can land pretty close to the farm and hack my way the rest of the way there. So the idea crossed my mind to butcher the settlers here and now and be done with the quest, but any experience is good experience, especially since at this point I am very close to level 20, so I play along and raid the recruitment office. So this dungeon is full of upgraded feral ghouls, but I'm more than ready for what they throw at me, which is apparently themselves. As for the glowing one, I maintain the high ground and spray and pray until they all go down. Even got a level up, so just one more level until my sanity, or what left, is saved. I reported my good deed, got on my vertibird and did a spot of war crimes. I made sure not to hit the farmers, but rather the explosive vehicle that was next to the farmers. I also proceeded to spread my war crimes across the bridge. Gotta love power without repercussions. So my next stop is going to be back in Diamond City. Along the way I nearly took a missile to the face. I went to the back of the place and idiot saves come out my reward for painting the wall, which brings me very close to level 20. So I guess time to head in reunions. I talked to Nick, save scummed yet again until I heard the magic jingle, and I hit level 20. I took the third level in the strong back perk, where you can run while overencumbered at the cost of AP, which means I won't be walking across the Commonwealth any longer. So in my victory party, I could head to Good Neighbor, except to get jumped by a pack of alpha feral mongrels along the way that take a very good bite out of me. Once that was done, I continued to walk towards Good Neighbor when I noticed the alien crash nearby, so I had to investigate. When I got to the cave where the alien crawled into, I just capped the space band and took a super good alien blaster and ammo for later, so when I get jumped by Deathclaws in the glowing sea, I can actually defend myself. Back at the Boston Commons, I decided to have a go at Swan. I pumped myself full of drugs and held down the left mouse button until Swan was but a swan song. Surprised how well the spray and pray worked, and I'm feeling very confident when I have a go at the Mirelurk Queen later. After that, I made my way at a brisk jog into Good Neighbor. I gave Finn a good handshake and then I let my favorite character do a speech. During that time, I hid out at Cleo's place to steal the Fat Man and a lot of powerful ammo without a nuke beam to the face. So for the Memory Den, it was a slow and agonizing crawl since I made myself walk through it. I guess it's not a Bethesda game without a mandatory unskippable cutscene where you can go to the bathroom. I got a nice Idiot Savant level up, and the next stop is the Glowing Sea. Yay! But since I was in Good Neighbor, I thought I could give the railroad a welcome the only way I know how. Used up all my missiles on Glory, but oh well. A lot of loot and supplies for what's to come, and it makes decoding the chip that much easier. On my way out, Karma decides to catch up to me and the game crashes. Thanks, Fallout 4. So with all that work done, I am getting low on vertebrate calls and I don't want to be stranded in the Glowing Sea, so I'm going to go back and restock. While I'm here, I do get me a set of power armor. If I can't run, then all hell, I'm going to stand my ground and fight. When I return to Sanctuary to tell Preston the good news, he tells me I can proceed on to the castle as that's going to make the endgame fast, hopefully. Mutants decide to pay a visit and their letter basically describes the Bethesda patented game loop. So I guess it's time to rip off the band-aid and head to the Glowing Sea. I started from the Fort Hagen and proceeded south from there. Along the way, I was able to wipe out a group of raiders. One of them had a missile launcher. Further on south, I was visited by 2 Deathclaws. One when I was trying to avoid the Deathclaw in the town, and since I was there I decided to fight the other one. Both went down with relative ease. And right before the Glowing Sea, I was jumped by a Deathclaw and a couple of rat scorpions. When I made it into the Glowing Sea, I was expecting a lot of blood, powerful enemies, and usage of a lot of ammo. Honestly, things weren't too bad this time around. Besides the beef gate at the start, it was just a slow stroll through the AAA game filter. Well, besides I was just swinging my axe towards the ghouls. When I got to Virgil's cave, I decided to have a throwdown melee à trois with the Deathclaw here. Kept getting picked up and thrown down, but at least it beats the insta-kill attack. Eventually my axe comes out on top and I could talk to Shrek about onions. So my next adventure is going to be retaking the castle, so I just picked a destination that is across the way and the vertebrate can drop me off pretty close to the castle instead of wandering through downtown. When I was dropped off, they dropped me off right next to a mutant football player, so I had to use the crit I was banking for the Mirror clean so I don't get spiked on. As for the castle, I was more or less letting Preston and the group take care of the Mirelurks while I was playing with the eggs. Eventually, with an omelet's worth of eggs in my possession, the queen came out to play. I honestly forgot how hard the acid spray attack can hit. I stood on top of the wall and brought out my boss killer and sprayed at the queen and hopped down when she got within hugging distance. Eventually the queen goes down and I can begin to automate my radiant quests. Yay. So with that all done, all that's left is waiting for Ronnie Shaw, so I guess now is a good time for green tech. When exploring green tech, I was not in the mood to shop for ammo and I was running low on fusion cells, so I brought out the shotgun. Until I remembered the gunners had energy weapons, so I'm good there. On the bridge, I had no idea what happened to the missile launcher guy. I heard one explosion and I think I took him down. Not for sure. Otherwise, raiders go down like all the rest. Eventually, I made it to the top with the courser. He backed himself into a corner, and so I brought out my axe. Sure, he may have invisibility, but that does not help when dealing with a lot of axe wings. Anyways, I grabbed the brain matter chip, and when I went to go to the railroad, the vertibird made essentially a circle and dropped me off to the closest spot. Next to green tech. I hate this game. Well, guess I'm walking. Back at the formerly railroad, I get the chip decoded, talk to Virgil once again, then return to Sanctuary to get the ball rolling on the endgame. I built a teleporter to get into the Institute. After seeing my tax money hard at work, I gave Father the greeting, I only know how. I was honestly expecting him to get thrown back. Oh well, I made my escape from the Institute, and I thought I could beeline it right to defend the castle. I spent close to 2 hours at this point doing quests. Let me explain. I thought by now I'd have enough settlements for Ronnie Shaw to show up. Preston said, screw you, do more radiant quests, and recruit more settlements to the cause. I probably should have done the location they sent me to, the furthest point on the map, close to the behemoths and high-leveled enemies, but instead, I killed the Finch just because I didn't fancy doing the forge, help out the slog fend off the forge anyways, with their problems, got the boathouse cleared out before deciding to do the mission they sent me to in the first place. Well, I used vertibird manipulation to drop me off close to the Somerville place, and talked to the settlers who told me to clear out the boathouse nearby. That is across the entire map, but thankfully I already did that. I thought this would be enough to start the final missions, but Preston told me, f you, do more settlement quest. I do more radiant quest. Preston still tells me, f you, do more radiant quest. At this point, I was so done with the run, and I gave Outpost and Monja a piece of my mind. Once I handed in the quest, I was finally told to meet up with Ronnie Shaw. I was not elated. I was just jaded, but at least I can finish up the run 2 hours past my bedtime. Only for me to realize after completing the run that Ronnie Shaw shows up to the castle 3 days after retaking it. Oops. I meet up with Ronnie Shaw, explore the crypt, fought Sarge who hits pretty hard, but thankfully a few explosive rounds and shotguns in his general direction fixed him right up. I built the cannons, test fired them, and the defenses so I could proceed with defending the castle. So I messed up with defending the castle. I put in too many levels so the Institute soldiers were all very beefy, and I did not put a single perk into my weapon modifications, so the enemies were able to take my bullets with way more health to spare. The regular stints weren't too bad. One legendary had a fat man, ironically. It was the coursers who were absolute pains in the ass. They had 1,000,000 HP, and could use stim packs to heal themselves. I think the courser who sat there and took 1,000 minigun rounds right to the face and still lived and healed up is a testament to how bullet sponge the enemies were. I think the thing that helped out the most was bringing the bullet sponges to me and using the super sledge while rooted. And once the robots were dealt with, the game still said, F you, there was one hiding somewhere, and I looked around the entire fort twice at my snail's pace. Eventually the game fixes itself and the mission was completed. It just took nearly all my ammunition. Well, I was just done at this point with the run, and instead of restocking, I said hell with it, just use what I got and just beat the run. Well, I did not want to bring along my basically broken power armor, so I just left it behind and swam across the waterfront until I started crawling around in the sewers. Enemies weren't too bad down here, thankfully. I just got lost because this is the first time I've done the Minimum ending, so that's something. Inside the Institute properly, I called in my backup to get to work on blowing the place sky high. Inside the plaza, I had to fight my way through the onslaught of sims before the elevator would work. Thankfully, they weren't as bullet spongy as the castle. I used up most of my remaining ammo on these jokers just so I can go into the director's office. Found Father lying where I blasted him before. I swore I looted him already. I did the nice thing and put him to bed. Eventually, I fought my way through the reactor room, and at this point, I just wanted the run to be done. So I pumped myself full of drugs to damage boost my way through. and when I put the charge on the reactor, the game didn't want to teleport me out, so I had to redo the room again. Second go, I did everything the exact same way, and at this point, I was just done. Eventually, the game teleported me out and worked correctly as intended. I told the kid I was going to be right back to go to the store to pick up some milk and cigarettes, then warped out of the institute. I pushed the button, shot a rocket at Preston, crashed the game as it loaded the ending slideshow and nearly lost my recording that was 4 hours long, and proving yes, you can beat Fallout 4 while over-encumbered. I don't ever want to do another Fallout 4 run after this mess. Well, after the run, I was able to reload my save and dropped all my stuff, which was honestly a lot. While I did suck playing through the game at a snail's pace, with the right perks and vertebrate signals, it became tolerable. But the whole padding on the minimum ending at my slow pace, and the game becoming a damage sponge for the endgame really soured my experience. Honestly, it felt like fighting 100 Alduins with a fork if anything. But the biggest thing was the game just refusing to work half the time, especially in the final hour. Between all the soft locks for the game not updating quests to not accessing computers and the crashes also, I was very sour with the run. However, I should mention that this run was recorded right before the recent update patch, so maybe if I do another run, the game might actually work. Who knows, really, it's Bethesda. That was a slog, and I am done. I don't want to see any more gravy for the rest of my days. Well, I guess I will see you all from when I inevitably beat Starfield while over-encumbered. Well, if you like this video, be sure to give a like, subscribe for more insanity, any more ways to torture myself, preferably in Skyrim, leave them down below. This has been Orpheolus, and see you all in the next one.